Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 underrated horror movie villains.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
For this list, we'll be looking at scary movie antagonists who've yet to get their day in the sun. As such, we'll be excluding characters who were underrated for some time, but are now appropriately appreciated, like Art the Clown. Keep in mind, there will be some spoilers. Who do you want to see make a bloody comeback? Let us know in the comments below.
Hey Mojoholics! For a chance to win cash prizes, play our live daily trivia challenges every day at 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern only at WatchMojo.com/play.
Number 20, Krampus. Krampus. With just 2 films, director Michael Dougherty has already made an indelible mark on cult horror, so much so that we may feature another of his villains. But what better way to kick off this list than with this Yuletide demon? Granted, Krampus gets his toy-like underlings to do his bidding for most of the runtime, but once the hooved beast makes an appearance, he does not disappoint. Even with a PG-13 rating, Krampus manages to make us shiver in our stockings, fully committed to being good, else we face his wrath. But even then, we may not be safe.
I'm sorry. I just wanted Christmas to be like it used to be.
Number 19, The Strangers. The Strangers franchise. A group of villains who keep things terrifyingly mysterious, this trio of masked killers start off small by knocking on the door of a suburban home. Slowly but surely, a campaign of harassment and torment begins, starting out with moving household objects around before ramping up to stalking, torture, and murder. From behind emotionless masks, the trio seems almost unmoved by the pain and suffering they cause their victims, which is in many ways even scarier than if they seem to enjoy it. One thing's for sure, if you hear a knock at your door late at night, just leave it be. Trust us, you're better off.
Why are you doing this to us? Because you were home.
Number 18, Angela Baker. Sleepaway Camp franchise.
I didn't think you were gonna show.
We perhaps know this unruly camper best for that out-of-left-field twist at the end of the first movie, but that's not where her mark on horror history ends. Wherever you fall on that plot development, you may be surprised to know that Angela and the series took on a campier tone in subsequent sequels. Pun intended. Indeed, Pamela Springsteen's version of the character assumed a livelier role as she gleefully took to dispatching naughty campers.
What are you looking for? A gun?
No?
A drill.
It may not be highbrow horror, but it serves as a more playful alternative to Friday the 13th. And if you prefer Felissa Rose as the OG Angela, the 2008 sequel has you covered.
Michael thought skinning frogs was cool. Ask him how cool it is now. Angela!
Number 17, Mark Lewis, Peeping Tom. Premiering 2 months before Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, Michael Powell's Peeping Tom also delves into the mind of a timid yet dangerous killer, yet often gets overlooked as a progenitor of the slasher subgenre. And right at the centre of it is a well-rounded villain in Mark Lewis.
Do you know what the most frightening thing in the world is? It's fear.
A victim of a cruel and unfeeling upbringing, Mark is an aspiring filmmaker who's become a little too taken with capturing fear on camera, and we think you can guess where it goes from there.
Imagine this would be one of his weapons.
That.
Yes. That.
Played to perfection by Carl Boom, Mark is the ideal sympathetic yet horrifically flawed villain to make the story dynamic and unpredictable. And God help you if you catch his eye. Number 16, Matt Cordell, aka Maniac Cop. Maniac Cop franchise. Matt Cordell checks a lot of boxes of your prototypical 80s slasher. He's hulking, he's undead, and he's a hell of a time at parties.
Let him go, Cordell!
While alive, Cordell was a well-intentioned, if somewhat violent NYPD cop. But when he was falsely imprisoned for police brutality and basically killed, he came back way more violent.
I'm not afraid to dive into have him kill me when I love him so much.
Obviously, the tone of Maniac Cop would be more than a little different now, but for the era, Matt Cordell certainly got the job done. This was due in large part to actor Robert Zadar's unmatched physicality, as he oozed screen presence whenever Cordell was taking names. We'd be interested to see what the franchise could look like today. Number 15, Man, Hush. A good, if archetypal horror movie baddie thrown into an interesting and unique situation, this crossbow-wielding killer finds himself with a deaf-mute woman as his latest intended victim. When this nameless killer comes to an isolated cabin to add another entry into what we can only assume is an ongoing rampage, he finds the supposedly helpless woman he's targeted is more than a match. The villain largely paints inside the lines when it comes to horror movie antagonists, with a spooky mask and a thirst for blood. What really elevates him above the crowd is the fresh spin on the slasher formula found in his movie.
I can come in anytime I want. And I can get you anytime I want.
Number 14, The Creep. Creep franchise. Whether you want to call him Joseph, Bill, or Aaron, we may never even learn his real name. The eponymous creep from these movies certainly lives up to the title.
Death. It's coming.
He may seem unassuming at first, but that's just part of his game. Rather than go after his victims right away, the creep will befriend them through some elaborate ruse before straining their tolerance of him to the absolute limit, and that's when he strikes. Whereas other horror villains get by on grisly kills, the creep thrives in the build-up of tension, always trying to keep people guessing. Oh, and as long as we're talking about alternate identities, Peach Fuzz is as terrifying as they get.
Are you gonna let me go? Why are you doing this to me? Are you just trying to scare me? Or...
Number 13, John Ryder, the Hitcher franchise. While we may love a villain with an interesting or even sympathetic backstory and motivation, there's just something about a baddie who remains a mystery that keeps us on edge. A mysterious hitchhiker who attacks and kills the people who make the grave mistake of picking him up, this character is a total question mark. The only thing we know for sure about him is his love of murder and mayhem. Why he's doing this is anyone's guess, and that element of mystery, combined with a truly chilling performance by Rutger Hauer in the original film, makes watching him as tense a horror experience as you could ever hope for. Number 12, The Stepfather franchise. Daddy's home, and he's none too pleased.
Hi, pumpkin.
While the The Stepfather, like most horror franchises, went the way of the dodo, the original remains a hidden gem. This is largely thanks to the committed performance from Terry O'Quinn, long before he was best known for Lost.
Wait a minute. Who am I here?
Jerry.
Jerry. Jerry Blake. Thank you, honey.
An alluringly dangerous personality, Jerry, or whatever his real name is, makes a habit of marrying into families under different identities. But he gives stepfathers everywhere a bad name by murdering his nearest and dearest when they fall short of his immaculate expectations.
Father knows best.
Another killer who can't suppress his violent tendencies, Jerry isn't someone you want to let into your life. He'll be smiling one minute, then beating you to death the next. Number 11, Lola Stone, The Loved Ones. Some people really bring out their worst selves when they can't get their way. An underseen Australian horror masterpiece, The Loved Ones follows a teenager named Brent. After Brent turns down Lola's invitation to prom, he finds himself forcefully attending her own twisted version of the event.
Is it finger licking good? Is it finger licking good?
Expertly played by Robin McLeavy, Lola is uber unnerving in all her mannerisms. Whether she's feigning love for her date or going full psycho, she commands every scene she's in. Oh, and don't even get us started on her creepy relationship with her dad.
It's always been you, Daddy. Just you and me.
Lots of horror movie villains come and go, but Lola is one that will stay with you. Number 10, The Creeper, Jeepers Creepers franchise.
That's not my scarecrow.
While the actual quality of the franchise is spotty at best, and that's to say nothing of creator Victor Salva's reputation, there's no denying that the actual Creeper is one of horror's most inventive conceptions. A creature that hunts for 23 days every 23rd spring, the Creeper may resemble a man, but don't let that fool you. It's actually a scaly humanoid being that takes to absorbing certain organs from its victims, and the way it determines which organs it needs is fear. Highly athletic and with oodles of surprises, the Creeper really can't be stopped once it has its sights set on you. Now, let's just hope we get an installment worthy of its attributes. Number 9, The Collector, the Collector franchise.
Are you here to kill me?
That'd be too nice.
The first Collector came out at the height of the Saw craze, so seeing as it also featured a killer with a penchant for traps, it was difficult to not compare the two. Which is appropriate, since the former was originally intended to be a prequel to the latter. But we'd argue that the Collector still brings something unique to the table.
Drop your weapon! Drop the weapon! Unit 316 is dismissed!
Perhaps the most unsettling part about the Collector is that we know hardly anything about him. You know, other than the fact that he scopes out his victims before turning their homes into death traps. Again, this is another series that doesn't quite live up to its villain, but we're sure the Collector has a solid outing in him yet. Number 8, The Miner, My Bloody Valentine franchise.
Every February 14th, Harry comes back to town.
You can get a long way with the right look. The killer from this 1981 slasher and its 2009 remake might not be the most interesting slasher on the scene, as his identity tends to vary even in the continuity of singular films. However, his gas mask, miner's helmet, and deadly pickaxe gives him a unique and unsettling look among horror movie villains, and that iconic visage makes him memorable and frightening. Plus, it's fairly obvious that his preferred stalking ground in the first one, the town of Valentine Bluffs, is in Canada. And how many Canadian slashers can you think of? At least he'll kill you politely.
Sarah, move it! Get in! Get in!
Number 7. Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead franchise. You'd think the directorial debut of special effects legend Stan Winston would have some excellent creature design. And in the case of Pumpkinhead, you'd be right. While Winston himself passed off design duties to other people, it can't be denied that the finished product is absolutely marvellous. A demonic spirit of vengeance, Pumpkinhead is regularly summoned to kill those who have done grave injustice. But buyer beware. They say that when you seek vengeance, dig 2 graves, which is commonly the case with Pumpkinhead. Beyond its striking visual aesthetics, Pumpkinhead also brings with it a fascinating rule set that each film builds a foundation on. But no, it doesn't resemble a pumpkin as much as you'd think. Number 6. Mick Taylor. Wolf Creek franchise. Does Wolf Creek being inspired by true events put Mick Taylor in a whole other category? Maybe, but we'd argue that his characterization transcends true crime.
What do you actually do? Now.
Oh, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
A rugged and ruthless outdoorsman, Mick Taylor scours the outback in search of tourists to torment, making us reconsider any travel plans we might have. But what makes him so memorable is his disarming personality. He'll start out as friendly as a quokka with his potential victims, and even when he moves on to torture, he remains his chipper and animated disposition.
Now, this little procedure is called making a head on a stick.
Actor John Jarrett does a tremendous job bringing Mick to life, and we just wish we could see more of the little bugger. Number 5. The Tall Man. Phantasm franchise.
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
There's perhaps no franchise more entrenched in cult horror than the Phantasm movies. And there's likewise no villain more associated with cult horror than the Tall Man. While this elderly mortician may look unassuming, if entirely unsettling, he actually bears with him a sinister mean streak. Not only that, but this trans-dimensional traveller boasts a slew of impressive abilities, from super strength to telekinesis. From 1979 all the way to 2016, actor Angus Scrimm played the Tall Man across 5 films, cementing a legacy in the genre. And for doing so with such assuredness and aplomb, we salute him.
It's all over.
It's never over.
Number 4. Leslie Vernon. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Mr. Vernon!
Hey!
We all have dreams and ambitions. Some want to travel the world and see exotic places. Some of us want to find true love. Some of us want to murder people in creative and symbolic ways. Actually, that last one is mostly this aspiring slasher who hopes to one day join the ranks of Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers.
This is what we were born to do.
A surprisingly chatty masked killer, this deadly antagonist has a documentary crew follow him around in order to showcase his dedication to becoming the very best slasher he can.
And that's rule number 1. Nobody gets away.
We can't fault his dedication. We just wish he took up a hobby that's a little less stabby.
No!
Number 3. Victor Crowley. Hatchet franchise. In many ways a throwback to classic slasher villains like Jason Voorhees, this undead killer is even portrayed by Kane Hodder, who portrayed Jason himself in a number of films. Somewhere in between being a zombie and a ghost, the primary antagonist of the Hatchet series is the vengeful spirit of a deformed boy who was killed in a horrible accident, and now brutally butchers anyone foolish enough to stray into his swampy home. With a razor-sharp hatchet as his primary weapon, this baddie is archetypal slasher movie magic. Big, mean, and more than happy to dispatch anyone he can get his hands on in as brutal a fashion as possible. Number 2, Billy, Black Christmas franchise.
Where did you put the baby, Betsy?
You've got the wrong number.
Where did you put Agnes, Billy?
The reason we always get a slight case of unease before picking up an unexpected phone call, this deranged killer likes to spend his time making obscene calls to his local sorority house. But unbeknownst to his soon-to-be victims in the sorority, he's calling from inside the house itself. Very little is known about this enigmatic killer, and his true identity and even his face are never shown in the original film. His origins, motivations, or why he calls all his victims Agnes are only ever hinted at. Honestly, we're not entirely sure we want to know what's going on in his head, though the 2006 remake certainly filled us in that regard.
Agnes, it's me, Billy. Agnes, don't you tell what we did, Agnes.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Sam, Trick or Treat. Children in creepy burlap sack masks are creepy enough, but children in creepy burlap sack masks who turn out to be murderous pumpkin-headed enforcers of the Halloween spirit are even scarier. Just one of the many antagonists of this 2007 anthology film, this pint-sized terror seems to be some sort of demon or spirit who punishes anyone who doesn't follow Halloween traditions. And by punish, we mean brutally murder with candy. Sure, these people tend to be rotten apples, but we think murder of any variety qualifies him as a true blue villain. With a great look and a killer movie under his belt, we definitely want to see more of this villain. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.